Let's see. I was the Spectacular Spider-Man,
Hmm.
Green Lantern, the animated series. We did Avengers Assemble.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
was Ant-Man in that.
After like, like 30, 40 people that have gone on this show with you guys, I would believe that you guys have all known each other since junior high. The tightness of this community is really
It feels like
awe-inspiring.
it. It really does. It does feel like it. Like we are a very tight-knit community,
Yeah.
and it's I love it because it really makes it feel like a safe environment to go in and be creative. Like, you're going into the office and it's your buddies and you get to say hi and hang out and be silly and it's people that you've been silly with before,
and
so you look
creative.
forward to being silly with them again. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great gig. It's a great gig and
We don't
I
let
wouldn't trade it for
anybody
anything.
come play with us that doesn't
That
abide
is,
by those rules,
I love it.
that doesn't allow that
Yeah.
creativity. And
I haven't met anybody yet, but there are 30 people
I
today.
am the you when we're doing this, and
You're a much
nobody,
better looking version of me. But okay.
nobody, thank you. Nobody gets to mess with this environment. No,
That's
no, no,
great.
no. We are. It's very
This is
precious.
cool own sacred space, right? You guys are
Truly.
such a tight knit group.
Yes.
Go on. I want to hear, if people are interested in how you started, how you broke into this
Okay.
world, because
Yeah.
we are here to entertain the audience that has been so gracious to hang with us or join us,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am a child acting survivor. I was a child actor. I actually joined the union when I was about 5 years old. And it was I kind of fell into it, I'd say, because
Uh,
I have three sisters, and my older sister used to do like beauty pageants, except for those who don't know, beauty pageants are totally like rigged, in the sense that they have like these little, I like to call them like microtransactions or DLC. So
Oh.
depending on how many of the little microtransaction categories you enter, like, best dress or brightest smile or bounciest hair or whatever, like the more of these you enter, because you have to pay to enter each one of these little subcategories, you have a better chance of winning the overall thing because they're going to want to
Ah.
reward the people who have spent on all these things. But the one thing that you can't really fudge is the talent competition. Because if you go on there and you suck and somebody else is like really, really amazing and doesn't win, people are going to be like, something's a little funny there. So my older sister was a great singer, and so she would go and win these talent competitions, and she ended up getting an agent through one of these pageants, and started auditioning. And my dad, like, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My dad worked sometimes three jobs. He's an English teacher. He would teach adults, like at adult school. So he would teach
Thank him
night
for
school and he would
that. That's
teach,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So he would teach
Shout
night
out to
school and he would
dad.
teach in the morning. And so my mom would schlep us around well, schlep me around because I couldn't just stay at home by myself because I was like 4 or 5. And so my sister had like dance classes and singing classes and auditions, and I was along for the ride.
I've heard this story
Yeah, I mean,
before.
I
for better
haven't.
or worse,
I haven't heard it.
like
No, 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 not
I
his
want,
story.
Oh.
Other people have a
Oh,
similar
okay.
story. I went along because
yeah,
my sister or my older brother, and I had to, and then all
yeah.
of a sudden I found myself. I was in it.
I mean, that's pretty much what it was. I mean, I was this precocious little kid. I overpronounced everything, and I always wanted to talk about things, and I always wanted to talk to adults. And so my sister was at an audition for a commercial. I want to say it was something like Oshkosh, like a kid's brand of
Yeah.
clothing. And I was just tagging along, and the casting lady comes out, and I just start chatting her up, and I'm talking to her and I'm talking to her, and they end up bringing me in for this audition. And I end up booking this spot, and my
Stop.
sister did not. And
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
Are you
she
guys
probably
still
still hates
talking
me
by
to
any
this day
chance or no?
because of that, and that's probably the reason why we don't. But but yeah, I mean, it was that basically got me into that agency, and then from then on I started auditioning, and I kind of started from the bottom of the entertainment industry, just doing like whatever extra work, commercials, student films like AFI films, things here and there. And then I just kind of grew up in it. Like I didn't do a lot of voiceover back then because back then they didn't really have a lot of things that used actual kids for
Kids,
voiceovers.
right? They were
Mhm.
using
It was
adults at
always
that time.
adults sounding like kids.
Women.
But the one thing
Hmm.
that they were insistent upon using kids for was Peanuts. And
Oh,
so I was Linus in a Peanuts special called Snoopy's Reunion. That was the
I
first voiceover job I ever did.
did not know this.
wow.
Yeah,
Linus,
yeah, I was Linus. I
that's
was
pretty
Linus.
You know what I love
amazing.
about that
Yeah.
story is you hit on what anybody who ever worked in any part of this town is, which you got to start somewhere. You got to,
Yeah,
because a
I
lot of
mean,
people are always putting in the chat all day. How do I get in? Ask every one of the guests. Well, how do I break in? How do I break in? And the
right.
answer is you do
Yeah.
whatever it is that you could find to do.
Get
and
in.
you start at the
I mean,
bottom
and
and
it
you
was a
keep
different business
noticed.
back
get
then.
noticed.
Yeah.
It was a really different business back then. Like now I feel like there's so much more competition because everything's opened up with the internet. However, there's also so many more avenues to get started as your own artist. Like
That's so true.
we didn't have the benefit of social media. We didn't have the benefit of something like YouTube where you could
Right.
literally create your own
Right.
content and reach an audience of millions of people. You had to get your foot in the door somehow, and you had to really just kind of like pound the pavement. Like we used to look in the trade magazines. They had like Backstage West and the Drama Log, where
Yes.
you would
I
literally go, and it was like
remember.
classifieds for actors. Yeah, where you would
Yeah.
like go into the like now casting section, which was like
Not
the
anymore.
hiring notices in the
Yeah.
back of the paper.
Yeah, I remember
And
those.
I'm aging myself by saying the back of the paper because they're like, what paper?
Yeah, what's a
What's
paper? Yeah,
You know?
from the copy
They're
machine.
turning their phones
You
over.
mean
We
like job
had-
postings on a website?
Yeah, we had Jonas Cabria here earlier yesterday, and he literally started by doing silly little was it TikTok? I'm not sure. Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, tennis things, and then with his dad, just being silly and messing around, and all of a sudden, then the tennis association invited him to come and do some interviews of some of the top
Wow.
tennis players. This is how he started, but like exactly what you're saying, you
Yeah.
know, is there's so many
Absolutely.
different avenues, and people get noticed, and influencers are influencers. I have
Yeah.
a story about that.
Yeah, go.
No. It's just that they're influencers. They are not actors. They are actors. They are influencing. They are doing what they love, and that's why they're so good, and that's why they have so many followers. But get behind a mic isn't exactly what they were doing, you know? Right. Acting.
Right.
Different form.
Acting. It's a completely
everybody's
different
it's a different form, right? And
Yeah.
everybody can,
And even on
everybody
camera
could do
acting
it.
versus
We have a few
even
that,
on camera
that
acting versus
did.
voiceover is
Yes.
very
Right.
is a very
This
different
is
thing.
true.
You know,
Yeah, there was
there's some
a
people that
few
can't make that
transitions.
transition.
Yeah, there was a couple of great transitions, and some not so much because it is, like you said, it's a completely different animal. If you could,
I'm one of those transitions. I mean, I started out on camera, and that's really where I started
oh,
my
you
career.
mean real
and,
acting? As
yeah,
Roger,
just real
Roger,
acting.
did you see that? Oh, Roger and Freddie,
Yes.
and we were all like, even Jonas started saying, or
I know.
Amari, yeah.
when Jonas, when I was young, right? Yeah. Well, when I was young, it was different acting. How old are you? I'm this many. Right? It's like,
Well, back in my day,
what were you going to ask him?
Oh, if you could play any character, have you ever had that coveted role?
yeah, I mean, Spider-Man. Spider-Man was my absolute favorite.
He played Spider-Man.
Superhero since I could like read, and I always felt like I identified with him because not because I have spider powers, unfortunately, but like the double life. And I think that I feel like that we all do that to some extent. We all kind of have like these different masks that we wear in within our own lives. And when I was growing up, I was a total like dork in high school. Like whatever you are when you are a freshman in high school, that's kind of what you're pegged as for your entire high school career.
Yeah,
and
you're
there's
so
really no
right.
changing that.
God, you're so right.
So
Yeah,
I was
that's so
shorter than
unfortunate.
everybody.
AV nerd becomes movie producer for the record. For all of you guys who beat the shit out of me, or wanted to because I wasn't a jock,
we
AV
would've-
nerd,
we
movie
would've been
producer, Hollywood, hello. Right?
we would have been friends.
Right? Exactly.
I mean, yeah, like I could not get a date to save my life. I was shorter than everybody. I was into science and I was into computers and technology. Like I was the guy that set up the school's internet before, like when internet was
God.
new. And I remember like the yearbook. I was the person that transitioned the entire school to doing everything online because before that they actually would do the physical layout, so they would like cut the stuff out. Yeah, and nobody knew how to use the programs, and so I had to teach everybody this stuff. And I mean, nobody taught me; I was just figuring it out. But that's what I liked, and but you know that didn't really get you popular. So I totally would be bullied in high school and feel like crap. But then I also had this whole other group of friends outside of that,
outside of
my
school.
actor friends. Yeah, my actor friends
Yeah.
that I didn't have that stigma with.
You know what? It's
And
really
so,
funny. I have a bazillion other questions I want to ask you, but you hit
yeah,
something
of
that's very,
course.
very interesting, and I would love to hear other people weigh in on this. My
Yeah.
nephew, who is older than my by a decade of my children, the youngers, and he did not have a phone. Okay, when he was in high school or maybe junior high, I don't even know. But my kids did, and he says, you know what, Aunt Collette, it's so odd that they go from being at school with an intensity that is school, and then what was great was that I would come home, and then I was with the neighborhood kids. You're home, and you're not still connected to
Yeah.
that intensity of those different relationships at school. He says they
Yeah.
and then so it continues. And then they have them like first thing in their ear in the morning. It's like there's never a break. Like you said, I had another set of friends. You gave a moment
Yes.
to decompress or not have to be on. And I thought, God, that is such a heavy insight that it's right. I mean, you had another set of friends. I had another set of friends. I had friends at school. I
Yeah.
had friends in the neighborhood.
I had no friends.
Oh, stop.
I'm married to my high school sweetheart for 43 years. We've been together since
Oh, that's
44. So I've been,
amazing.
so.
I love that.
Wah, wah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Hey,
I
bud.
just thought that was an interesting point.
I'm so sorry,
No.
because you were saying like kind of the magic of the internet. So we were saying this before. So
Right.
the magic of the
Yeah.
internet, the guys in the booth quickly looked it up. The answer to the question, what did you guys first work on together, is
Oh, whoa.
Scooby-Doo Spooky Games
don't think
2012. And you know what? That's not true, apparently.
I don't think
Thanks, guys
Yeah,
in the
no, we
booth.
weren't
We don't like any of you.
2012. That
2012.
seems.
We had worked already before
Yeah,
that.
yeah. We'll figure it out.
Okay, so just rewind the tape.
Yeah,
We're going to edit that
yeah.
part out.
No,
when
no,
we
no.
do
I
this.
love that somebody
That
on
might have
chat
been
seemed
because
to think it.
I think that those are listed by release date.
Ah,
So
okay.
there was probably something that was produced before that we worked on.
Well, then we better move on to
We
another
knew each
question.
other by then.
Amber's the one that gave us an answer, and she's typically got some really good information. What was it like
Yeah.
working as a child VO actor versus an adult VO actor?
Well, there wasn't a lot of work, like I was saying before. So like but I would say at the time, because of that, there was also less competition. There's way more competition, and you're also expected to do a lot more as an adult. Like there's just like when you're a kid, you're basically, if you can say the words and if you're directable, that's pretty much all you need. Whereas an adult, you got to start making character choices. You're not just going in there with your own personality. You're actually bringing different approaches to the character and different voices to the character, different accents, dialects, all that kind of stuff. So I'd say the requirements are less when you're a kid, but you're also a kid. So like you wouldn't have
That's
had
true.
that backlog of training or practice or
Right,
whatever
and you
to do.
pretty much
So-
get spoon-fed the lines, and the
Yeah,
delivery
yeah.
that they want. I don't know about Linus. I can't. I just cannot wait to go see that. Your little
Oh yeah,
boy's-
it's called Snoopy's Reunion, and so I was Linus in
Linus.
that, and then there were a couple of other things I did. It's funny because I always was able to pronounce words really well from the time I was little, so that kind of was my thing. I was in the Back to the Future animated series, and Doc at the end of Back to the Future 3 had two sons, Jules and Vern, and I was Jules. I was the brainy one, and I still remember to this day the line in the audition that got me cast. And I was probably the only kid that could rattle it off. And because I was into science, I knew what I was talking about even back then when I was like 10. And the line was, I'm computing the logarithmic equivalence of the atomic weights of certain isotopes found in the lanthanide series of rare earth elements.
Whoa.
And
He
and then
remembers
Doc
this.
Brown goes, again? And, yeah,
This is no live
yeah.
action. Number 3.
no. This was the animated
This
series that followed.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right. Oh, that is awesome.
yeah.
You rattled that off like I remember my bar mitzvah speech that was pounded into my head to be able to remember.
For the rest of your
pounded
life.
in. I still remember it
Yeah, of course
forever
you
and
should.
ever.
Oh my
right?
God. That's
Ah,
hilarious.
That's how you.
Josh, what was it like working doing the Batman animated series versus King of the Hill?
Well, Batman the Animated Series, I only did one episode, and it was when I was very young. It was also one of my very earliest voiceover jobs, and I don't
How
really
young were
remember a
you?
whole lot of that. I was very young. I was probably like I mean, this is probably around the same time as Linus, so maybe
Oh,
like
Oh, wow.
nine or
oh, okay.
10.
Wow.
I don't really remember. But yeah, I don't really remember that experience all that much. Like all of it's kind of a blur. When I think about like my old voiceover experiences from the time I was a kid, because I mean, keep in mind this is like over 30 years ago.
Mm.
It all kind of seems like it's in the same studio at the same time in the same session.
Yeah,
It all just kind
yeah,
of
kind
blurs
of,
together.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that.
So
You almost
yeah,
have to
like
remember, you get a feel of where, maybe not
yes.
you, but like I'd have to feel the console. Where was
It
it?
does.
Oh, yeah, that's
The
right, we
where
did that.
really makes a big difference. Like for Peter Pan and the Pirates, I remember Buzzies. I remember going and recording at Buzzies and having like all the Lost Boys because um, we all had to share mics. We all did
Mm,
ensemble records, and there was like 20 people in this tiny room,
stop.
and so it literally was like the Lost Boys treehouse where there weren't seats for everybody, but this place also used to record like bands and stuff. So they had these huge like stage monitor speakers inside there. And I was literally just like lying down on top of one of these, like just kids strewn all over the place. It was hilarious. So I do remember that location. And then I remember Back to the Future because when I was on Back to the Future, I actually busted one of my teeth
Oh no.
at this studio because they had a pool table. And
Oh.
um, you
Somebody
know,
hit
me and
I'm
the
a
kid that
sorry.
played
wayward
Burn.
ball.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, well, because we weren't actually playing pool. We were
No,
like, how many bumpers can we hit before this ball
got
stops?
it.
So we would just be flinging the balls across
Yeah.
the table. And well, one of them came up and smacked me in the mouth and
Mm.
uh, busted this tooth and this tooth. And I was like, Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber. But yeah, it was and then so I got that fixed by the dentist to all the celebrity kids, Dr. Smith. He's since retired, but he was an amazing dentist, and
But he's
he
lost in
saved
space now, I understand.
my face. Yes,
That's why he's not working.
but Peter Parker luck.
Not
My
retired.
first day of Spectacular Spider-Man, I wake up and I feel a very familiar cold chill,
Oh
and my tooth had come back
no.
out, and it was the first
Oh.
day I was supposed to go record for this. So I remember calling my agent, and I was like, um, "So my tooth came out, and I'm supposed to go to record for Spider-Man today. Should I still go to the session?" They're like, "No." They're
No.
like, "Get that
Click.
fixed." So, yeah, it
I
was.
love
But yeah,
that.
I remember those locales. But and King of the Hill was I don't even remember where I did that one. I want to say no, it wasn't at Salami. It feels like a Salami
What was
place,
your
No,
role in
like a
King of the
no.
Salami
Hill?
show.
I loved
I
King of
just
the
did
Hill.
Yeah.
like random incidentals. I did
Okay.
random incidentals. There's this one where
Love
they're
that
at a
show.
water park, and I play like this jerk of a teen that talks to Bobby. And there was another one that I did. I wasn't actually familiar with King of the Hill when I did the show. Like I knew of the show, but I hadn't watched it yet. And I've since it's one of the shows that
Addicted.
has become one of my cleaning background shows. Like I love the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. Was it
That happens with a lot
ensemble?
of shows.
Was that an ensemble record or was it one
That
on one?
it was kind of like a mini ensemble where like not everybody was there, but a lot of people were there. So I want to say they probably did like a utility ensemble. So like
Mm.
they had like a lot of the utility characters there and maybe one or two of the people that were the main cast. But um, yeah, it was kind of like a scaled back ensemble.
What was it like being Electro in Spider-Man, the video game, since you were Spider-Man, being a villain in the world? Dun, dun, dun. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool when you get to play the villain because and career wise for me, like I've most of the time been hired to play like the good guy and like the heroic guy. And so getting to play some of these villainous roles has been really fun for me. Um and yeah, it was really enjoyable. Like I was very grateful that they asked me to come and be a part of it. And it was cool because I never really get to work with Yuri all that much because our voices live in a similar
Yeah,
place,
they
so we don't
do.
really get
Oh.
cast on the same things very often. So and I mean I was doing a very different voice for Electro, so that probably helped.
Yeah, I get you.
And
I would
even that,
assume.
like I wanted him to be kind of like this blue collar sounding guy. And so his voice was basically patterned off of an electrician, coincidentally, that worked at my house. Who to me, like when he first came over and he was talking to me, I'm like, this guy sounds like a caricature of somebody from like New York. Like the last voice that I'd heard like that was this guy. back before 9/11, like long time ago, when I actually went to the Twin Towers and ate at the restaurant. The guy that was running the elevator, he just sounded like he was out of a movie.
I love
And
that.
like just what you would imagine a New
Right.
Yorker to sound if you had
Right.
only ever watched movies. And he sounded just like that.
Can I hear
And
that
this
voice? Because I
electrician,
haven't heard
Yeah.
the
What's
voice.
that
Can I
voice
hear
sound
it?
like?
well, the electro guy, he kind of sounded like this. I wanted to give him a little bit of grit, because when he's crackling with electricity, I
Right.
wanted him to have a little bit of that. No, I ended up regretting that, because when you start doing those kind of
Yes.
voices, they start to hurt after a while.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, so I wanted him to have just kind of this real tough blue collar sound, but still funny. Because he in that scene, he's quipping back and forth with Spidey, and I'm like, I still want him to kind of have that sense of humor. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And also it was a mocap job. So
Hmm.
Nice.
I mocapped everything, and as somebody that came from on camera, and still really enjoys that kind of working with the entirety of my body. It was really fun. Like I love mocap jobs whenever I can
Yeah,
get
it's
them.
the best of both
Um,
worlds then.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
I have a
absolutely.
question for you. If somebody came up to you and asked you how to get into VO, and
Mhm.
or they asked what kind of classes would you suggest?
Hmm.
What would you suggest? What kind?
I would say improv. I would say like an acting class, like train for it as if you're going to train for on camera
Mm-hmm.
roles. Because I still do use a lot of movement within voiceover, because you can hear it. Like
Yes.
if I it's not just saying the line. There's also pre-life and post-life and all of that stuff that goes in between. And if I'm acting within a scene opposite somebody else, I'm going to be looking at them in the eye. I'm going to be like playing that scene to them. There's going to be pauses, and there's going to be times where I'm thinking, and if you're still involved in that scene and not just like waiting for the next time that you're looking for your next line, if you're still involved in that, it's going to affect the way that you actually say the line. It's going to
Yes.
affect all, like you're going to have a different pacing than if you just kind of do it the way that you've practiced.
Yeah.
And
That's so
so
true.
all of whatever movement you can really impart to that role, and I'm not saying to like force movement, but just by being in that moment. And the only way that you really kind of get that training is in like a scene study class, and because you got to picture it in your mind. You
Yes.
you really have to picture the entire situation, because a lot of times you don't get the luxury of even having the other actor there.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Um,
when you have to rely on your
and that's
director,
when we have to
right?
depend on our wonderful directors
Yeah.
to keep us in the same
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so much trust that has to be there between an actor and our voice director, because um, you already know the entirety of the story and
Right.
how the whole thing is going to sound. You've already probably been with one of the actors, and now you're trying to keep me in the same place. So I
Mm-hmm.
might have that place
Yeah, somewhere
visualized a
else.
completely different
Yeah.
way in my
If you don't
head.
have playback
And
for
so
them.
if
Right.
yeah, and if I don't trust that you're going to keep me there, it's going to feel weird to me. It's going to feel uncomfortable, because I'll be like, no, but that doesn't make sense to me. So I have to put my trust in you,
Mm-hmm.
which and you've never let me down. That
They've
that
earned
you're going
his
to keep me
trust.
honest and keep me in that same place. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I love
it's
the
I
visual of being on stage. Sometimes this really helps people that have actually studied, theater and
Mhm.
have gotten up on stage. And I'll say, I literally need you to like walk this scene through in your head as though you're walking across and you're projecting it out to the audience. Not that you have to be
mhm.
loud, but I need to hear it clearly. And I want the
Yes.
pacing as though you're really doing it. Like it's not just reading lines. There's a
That,
lot
Yeah.
of acting.
Those
it's
thoughts had to come from somewhere, and you need to hear that thought happening.
Right.
this
Right.
conversation is
And then
fascinating for me, you guys, because I come from live action, right?
Yeah.
So, just different world, but what you guys are just talking about right now, like live action, everybody gets to play off of each other. It's in the same time, just like theater, right? You
Sure.
get to play off each other.
yeah,
Yeah.
And especially comedy, timing is everything, right?
Everything.
And everybody, Josh, as I'm sure you can imagine, who's been on this show for the last day, to just bring out everything. And I'm really thinking differently now about that job.
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
it is like
different.
one guy in a booth, somebody else recorded it a week ago, or
Yeah.
somebody will record the person you're playing opposite recorded will record a week from now.
And think about if
How do
you
do
had
that?
one talent that is playing off by him, himself in a booth. There's a lack of energy that the other talent would bring, right? So there lies my job also, to keep his energy up and to keep him feeling like as though I'm in the booth with him. Yeah, it is a completely different. It's an interesting little tricky place.
There was an
I
old.
love my
It's like
job.
you're a conductor,
tell.
like conducting a symphony, but also
Yes.
sometimes jumping in and playing some of the
Yeah.
Some of the
instruments
instruments.
in the orchestra.
Yeah, even if it's
Yeah.
bad, at least you
Yeah.
know when you need to come in on time. Yeah.
It's never bad. It's never bad.
There was an old Simpsons
But
episode.
I would say that the
Oh, sorry. Go on,
other
go.
class that they
Oh,
should,
yes.
and it doesn't even have to be a class, singing. Take a singing class, sing as often as possible, because that, like, I always say that's like yoga for your voice. Like, it helps
is.
your ear, it helps your pitch control, it helps your breathing and your support, it helps your range.
This is so true.
It helps your timing. Like one of the things that I did in my career path was I was in a boy band in the late 90s.
No.
And
Come
yeah, I was in a
Pull up
boy
a
band in the
picture.
late
on.
90s.
I wish we could
To
pull
the
up
face,
a picture.
Of course he was.
The hair.
Those
I can see the hair. Okay.
He's perfect.
Well, I had like I looked like a Q-tip. I had like bleached hair for a while. And,
Oh, we're gonna
but yeah,
find
it was
it.
crazy. But yeah, I mean, but I did a lot of singing. I did a lot of recording. And one of the things that you do in that is when you're recording for pop music, especially, you'll double a lot of vocals and come in and start doing background vocals. And so you really start to get that timing where it still has to sound fresh, but it also has to match a pre-existing timing. And so when I came in to start doing things like ADR and dubbing and stuff where you actually have to match lip flap or match an existing performance that can throw people sometimes, that was a cakewalk for me. And it was so easy to just hear it once and be able to knock it out because I've been singing for so long. And then, I mean, even things like
If you have an ear.
getting to yes, but that's still trainable.
But
That's still
also
trainable to a
there's
large extent.
a lot of times there's a rhythm to lines, a rhythm of back and forth. No, I think
Sure.
I have never heard anyone suggest singing. And I think
Singing's super important.
that's I'm taking that away from this weekend. That and a
Absolutely,
few other
yeah.
little tidbits I've learned about different people, but I love that. I love improv. I love theater, and I love the singing because there's been several times
Yeah.
where you and I have worked together because you're a character song.
How old are your kids?
8 and 10.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Oh.
crazy.
Everyone keeps telling me older kids. I mean, didn't
Right.
you just have this baby?
Everybody-
Didn't you just
I
have
know, right? Like,
Angela last year? I mean,
I remember the session that, and she remembers
came
me
in,
too.
Lola.
She remembers.
Yeah?
She still remembers that day. Yeah, like
Yeah.
where I had to do a session, and Lola was with me, and you had given her some paper to draw on, and
Yep.
she remembers drawing there. And
Yep.
she actually is an amazing artist now. She draws a lot now.
wow,
but
I'd
yeah,
love to see a piece.
Gosh, like everybody, Josh has worked with essentially everybody. That's
Yes,
right.
yes,
That's right.
yeah.
Probably grew up watching every known cartoon to this day, right? Or animated
Yeah.
show to
Oh,
this
yeah.
day. So, as a fan, right? What's your favorite movie or TV show and the character from it that voice is just like it's stuck in your head? The show, the voice.
Oh man.
We ask hard questions here.
That is
People
a
aren't
hard
going to come
question
back.
because,
Have you noticed that?
it's like somebody asks you to sing a song, and it's like you have all these songs going through your head, but as soon as you're asked to like pick one, like all of a sudden you've never heard a song in your life.
Well, singing song is next, but anyway, go on.
He would.
Oh man, that's a really that's the tough one because
What affected you the most as a kid watching an animated show or movie?
I mean definitely the stories. I mean again, I'd probably have to go back to Frank. I probably have to go back to Frank and I mean like I really I loved Transformers.
Right.
I loved Peter and Frank's Optimus and Megatron. I loved the way that they played off of each other. I was so glad to get to see them do it again in Prime, but this time with more fleshed out story. Because like when I go back and I watch the old Transformers, like I still enjoy it, but the stories were quite thin, and it was really just to sell toys.
Yeah, it
And so
was.
in the later one, where they really kind of fleshed out backstories and all of that, it was kind of like hearing Transformers as an adult the way I thought I was hearing it as a kid. Like when you're a kid, you buy into
Ah,
all of
That's
that. And
super
you don't
cool.
yeah,
necessarily
that's
you
so
don't
true.
necessarily
Yeah.
think about all the shortcomings to the story.
No,
And
you're
then
not
this
even
one
paying
fleshed them
attention.
out so much that yeah, like I was like, wow, these are like real stories. And I mean, I could appreciate them as an adult, but that's what I felt like I was hearing back then. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'd say, yeah, probably Transformers. I
That's
watched
good.
a lot of Transformers.
And we got a shout out to
Yeah.
the booth, by the way. Every
Oh,
now and then we got to remind ourselves that these guys have been up 20 something hours plus setup plus everything. We're really grateful to you guys.
unbelievable. Salami Studios, Gary Falcone. Thank you, brother,
Yeah.
for this gracious gift.
So this has been great.
Sure.
Obviously,
Yeah, this has been awesome.
it's so much fun to meet the people that you've heard the voices for so
Yeah.
long, and for doing this for an incredibly worthy cause. It is Mother's Day,
Absolutely.
and every mother is going to benefit
Yes.
from today.
From any child.
So I just want to
And
thank you.
brothers and sisters and grandmas and aunts and uncles. And
Yeah.
I can just go down the line. Thank
Yeah, everybody who is a fan of me, or even if you're not, this is an amazing cause. Help kids, help kids kick cancer's ass. This is if there's anything that you donate to, this is definitely a thing to consider because
you.
kids shouldn't have to deal with this burden. It's something they should be watching cartoons. They should be enjoying life, riding a bike, going outside, and whatever you can do to help somebody that's struggling
Amen.
through this is absolutely something you should do if you're able to.
Agreed. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for joining. And now go enjoy
Yes.
your wife and her Mother's Day.
I hope you're picking up
Absolutely. Of course.
the tab. Just checking. You never know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Happy Mother's Day, Collette.
Oh, thank you, my love.